good morning. It's lovely to see so many of you here. We've been really pleasantly surprised by how interesting clearly this topic is to many of you, and it's actually really nice to have that played back to us, because we know it's a really tough market at the moment out there, and therefore talent assessment and succession planning should be at the top of every business owner's, HR manager, leaders agenda. So welcome. I've got Anna with me in the room. We'll do introductions shortly, but a few small pieces of housekeeping before we kick the webinar off, if that's okay. You may notice that all of your videos and your mics are off at this point. We'll keep them muted until the end session, if that's okay. But if you do have any questions throughout, you can use the Q&A facility, which will be in your menu bar at the bottom of the screen. But you've also will see our contact details flash up at various points. So if you'd rather take your questions offline and follow up after the webinar, please also feel free to do so. That's not a problem at all. Thank you. Marvellous. So thank you very much. I can see a few of you that I recognise the names of very well. But for those of you that don't know the Curve Group, I just wanted to give us a very quick introduction, a little bit more information about who we are and why we do what we do. Oops, sorry, not sure what's going on there. So the Curve Group, we provide recruitment HR outsource solutions across the entire employee lifecycle. Our core outsource solutions are recruitment and HR, but we also deliver HR consultancy, which is what we're going to focus on today. Our solutions can be fully embedded into a business, but they can also wrap around and provide additional complementary capacity and expertise. So again, the case study we're going to talk through today is a perfect example of what we can do for a business. Thank you, Anna. So in case you don't realise this as we talk, we're incredibly passionate about what we do, and we do have a wonderful awards cabinet trophy at Curve HQ, and we're very proud of what it is that we can do for our clients. So here are just a small selection of the awards and industry recognition that we've received over the years. Perfect, thank you, Anna. So I mentioned that I will be handing over to Anna shortly, who will be delivering the majority of the content today. My name is Dan Pusey. I take care of bids and marketing at the Curve Group, and I also pull together all of the industry insights for our clients, which is why I've realised that talent assessment and succession planning is definitely a very important topic at the moment. In fact, we think there's probably only about 30–35% of businesses have formal systems and structures in place to manage this. So hopefully all of the information and examples we'll share today will be very beneficial to the business. I'm now going to hand over to Anna shortly, who will take you through the bulk of the content. But before I do, I will just give you a very high level introduction in terms of what we're going to cover. So first and foremost, we're going to be looking at what actually talent assessment means and succession planning and why it's important. I can see definitely some of you on the line this morning will have knowledge of this, knowing who you are and who you work for, but there might be those of you that haven't touched on this before. So we just wanted to start with a very quick introduction on what it is and why it's important. And then we'll be following with something slightly different this month. Normally we share kind of tips and tricks and insights, but what we're actually going to do is bring to life a live example of a case study of a talent assessment and succession planning project that we have just completed for one of our clients, Amigo Loans. And then we'll be wrapping up at the end with the top tips and key takeaways from today. So without further ado, welcome everybody. Over to you, Anna.
Lovely, thank you very much, Sam, and a big warm welcome from myself as well. So just as we said, we are going to just start off with a very brief overview of what is talent assessment and succession planning. So talent assessment, usually we hear a lot about it when we've got new individuals coming into an organisation and what the up and coming talent looks like. We look at it quite a lot during the recruitment process, but what we've really honed in on when we bring to life this case study is actually how it also applies to existing employees. We're also going to take a look at succession planning and why that's important. So it focuses on identifying and growing talent to fill the leadership and business critical positions in the future, especially at the moment where there is a massive skills shortage. Succession planning has gained so much popularity and is now carried out in both large and smaller organisations. And I just think to wrap all of that up, really, I think there's three key points that I want to bring out, and that is to review the internal performance and its potential. Is it fit for purpose, especially in the organisation that you're in or in the growing market that we've got at the moment? Identify future leaders and business critical talent, and implement strategies to secure those succession plans and make sure that you've got the right people in the right places as you continue to grow. So again, let's take a look at why it is important. So I think, let's start off with complete visibility of existing talent, opportunities and gaps is something that we don't always know within our organisation. We might be closer to it if it's a smaller organisation, but if we're a larger organisation, we absolutely aren't always on top of it. So this is a great opportunity to bring all of that information together. It absolutely supports and informs the entire workforce planning. It just meets the strategic objectives, and it does give you that stabilisation and all that growth that you may be looking for currently. I think there's awareness of where additional processes, training and support and development is required. If we don't ask the questions of what our individuals need within the workplace, then we don't know how we can support them. It absolutely provides strategies to both retain and attract talent, and that's what we're looking to do. And it also highlights where we've got individuals that just might be fit for the organisation, but are actually sitting in the wrong box at the moment, or the wrong team, or the wrong area of the business, and we're not utilising all of their skills.
Thank you, Anna, for that induction. So at the beginning of the session, I mentioned that we are going to bring to life a case study of a great example of a talent assessment project that we've been completing recently. And within that case study, we're just going to drop in a couple of quotes that we've had from the CEO of Amigo Loans, just to demonstrate the actual true impact that this has had on the business. And as you can see in this one, it's just invaluable. We fully appreciate the work that goes into completing something like a talent assessment, and it is all consuming and it can take an awful lot of time, but we just want to demonstrate through some of these quotes that we'll be dropping in actually how much of an impact that can have. And Amigo are going through a very exciting, a very transformational time in the business at the moment, and they have huge growth potential, aspirations, etc. But even if you're not in that position as your business, but you want to feel like you're getting a bit more of a handle on where your talent is, where your opportunities or your gaps could be if you're struggling to retain staff or attract staff, this is a very, very powerful opportunity to apply some of the things that Anna will be talking about shortly. So I'll hand back over to Anna now to begin and share more.
Lovely, thank you very much. So as Sam said, this is actually based on a true case study, and I've been, I've really enjoyed the time that I've been working with Amigo, and actually where it all started was fantastic. So we actually started by introducing the 9-box talent grid, and we introduced that to all of the line managers, and that's every line manager within the organisation, whether it was ExCo all the way down through the business to our most junior team leader. And the starting point really was for the talent assessment to take place. The line managers plotted in advance where they believed the individuals within their team were, and you can see that then threaded all the way through the business. And then what I did was I had a pleasurable time actually going on site within Amigo and being actually fortunate enough to interview every individual line manager. And whilst I had them in front of me, I didn't just talk about where they'd plotted their team. I also had the opportunity to challenge and moderate those scores. And that way we also had an absolute consistent company-wide approach. I also was able to kind of ask them how they felt about some other areas that the CEO had asked me to kind of look at, including one-to-ones, what the performance management framework looked like, if they had any flight risks. And so I managed to really get some great data and insight out of them. I think it's key to say though, and I know that both Sam and I will say it, and we have said it already, but it's really important that this is completed across the entire business. So absolutely top down and bottom up, or bottom up and top down, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, but absolutely we needed the buy-in from everybody that had any individual reporting into them. So once we'd done that, we were able to then plot all of the results that we had. Now, these are just examples of populated 9-box talent grids. The first is an example of a business-wide grid, which is used for holistic view. So you'll be able to see where everybody is plotted in the organisation. And then while working with our fantastic data team, what we were then able to do is break it down into the department. So we were able to look at every single department, from complaints to completions, through to underwriting, through to customer service, through to finance, even all the way through to HR and Exco. So it was fantastic that we will be able to do that. That really quickly meant that we could have the highlighted areas of the business which needed more attention and which ones needed less attention. I think also the grid also provides a visual aid to bring to life the potential succession strategies and whether you have the right blend of talent in the right places to keep providing those succession plans. For example, those in the top right-hand corner are absolutely ready now for something to be done with them. Now, it might be that they want to be the leaders, it might be that they end up becoming specialists within their areas, but they are ready now. They're the individuals that we really need to hold on to, and we really need to invest the time in those people. The next slice down really is the people that will be ready in 2 to 3 years, but let's please start concentrating on those. You know, as you can see, it then goes through into the 3 to 5 years. And it might be if you're a smaller organisation that those timescales are actually shrunk and it could be 1 to 2 years and then 2 to 3 years and so on and so forth. But let's not forget the bottom corner, and it's really key that you look at these individuals that have fallen, unfortunately, either into underperformer or inconsistent performance, just to see what support they need. Here you really need to investigate what you're going to do with them, why it is that they're actually in these categories, what decisions around their tenure, whether they would be better relocated elsewhere in the business, if they need any further training, and what support we can provide not only to the individuals, but the line managers managing those individuals to make sure that they've got the correct skills as well. As I said, I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some quality time with all of the line managers, including the Exco team, and that allowed us again to get extra data from them. So we also asked some questions around how good they were at their current one-to-ones, whether or not they had any flight risks in their team, if they wanted any adjustments made for full-time employees or the equivalent of employees, and we also did something around salary as well. Again, these are just examples, but again, we could cut it across the entire organisation, and we could also cut it across kind of different departments as well.
Thank you so much, Anna. So again, another slice of that quote from our CEO that we supported with this project. And I think hopefully, without having to spell it out clearly, having access to that data and that visibility, both on an individual, departmental and company-wide basis, is incredibly powerful. And the whole point of the project very much was to equip Exco and the senior leadership team with all of the information and knowledge that they need to make a decision going forwards, in terms of alleviating any of the potential flight risks, so that they weren't losing any more employees and therefore getting back into the mix of having to recruit in a very difficult market, as well as looking at the more positive opportunities in terms of sort of future development of their future leadership cohort. So really, really important and very, very powerful. I'm now going to hand back over to Anna, who's going to go through the next steps in the project. So all the things that we did with that data once we had it, including identifying those training needs, competency frameworks, re-looking at values, etc., and the performance management process. So back over to you, Anna.
Lovely, thank you, Sam. So just as Sam said, we were fortunate enough just to kind of absolutely be able to identify the training needs. And we did this by the one-to-one interviews, and we then did it by a follow-up survey as well, in terms of we took the most key trends that came out of the information, and then we sent that out on a survey. So we were able to find out, and we rolled up all of that data to identify all of the themes. We then absolutely created a company-wide training menu, which covered a multiple of topics. And I think it's fair to say, you know, the training that we can design can be done in a number of ways, from full day sessions all the way through to 3-hour sessions or bite-sized training sessions. And organisations, including Amigo, use it almost like a little bit of a Woolworths pick and mix, where they can pick the relevant kind of sessions that match their kind of leaders or what's required. In addition to this, what we also done is create personalised learning journeys, and we built that into their whole performance management programme, as we're talking about later on. And we've absolutely, on top of that, then created the leadership development programme. And the leadership development programme breaks out into 2 areas. So it's the leaders that they've got now to make sure that everybody's consistent. And then we also break it down into an aspiring leadership programme for those people that sat into that second bracket, the 2 to 3 years. It just meant that we could get them fit for purpose as and when and as the organisation grows. Where we didn't have the specialism, we actually used all of our third parties that we work with very closely, and we will engage external providers if need be. And the final thing that we absolutely introduced was a CPD culture. That wasn't being captured. So as part of the overall performance management, we launched CPD, what it is, what the benefits are, and also it just meant that the individuals start to take ownership of their own development, and it's no longer just a learning for learning's sake. So there's a small target for everybody to work towards as well. Now, one of the things that we're currently looking at with Amigo, and it's very early stages, but I think it's really key to bring out, is a competency framework. And as the CIPD quote here, a competency framework is a structure that sets out and defines each individual competency, such as problem solving or people management, required by the individuals working in an organisation or part of that organisation. And it's really key that what you do at the start is you identify the company-wide departmental and the individual competencies required. And this really is key to enable people to know where they are now and what they need to do to be able to move forward. So it supports their own CPD and their own learning as well. We define each competency with an organisation to provide clarity and consistency of application, and then we model it through the various levels, normally using a level 1 and a level 5 being the most competent, level 1 where we would expect someone to be at the start of their career. And I think what's really great is if we do this and you get it delivered correctly, you'll see the results starting to kind of build, and you'll actually see people starting to build through those different levels. Now, this is a very high level competency framework. We've just popped in across the top some very key areas which fit within most organisations. We've done a definition, and then we break it down into what level 1 looks like and what level 5 looks like. And clearly, if we were working alongside you, we'd look at levels 2 to 4 as well. And then you'd be able to see how the individuals will be able to build up their own scores as well. I think also what's very key here is it absolutely means that an individual knows where they are and what they've got to do to achieve. So it's a very transparent way of kind of working as well. It also means that it offers a lot more flexibility, and it avoids any overlay and non-inclusive approach as well. So it means we're including everybody in that transparent approach. So again, very key to an organisation, and Amigo already had some values and behaviours, but what we did do is work with them to make sure that these were incorporated into everything that we did. And that includes the training that we rolled out, the new performance management framework that we put in place for them. So when we look at the values and behaviours, they were reviewed and refreshed just to make sure they are absolutely working towards where Amigo wants to go, especially in the evolution that they're doing at the moment. This in turn drives the culture, and it absolutely pushes through from every area of the business as well. And as I've already said, we weave that into the competency framework, the performance management, the training and the development as well. So I'm going to jump forward now into the actual performance management framework. And this is one of the key outputs of what we did from the talent assessment. So as I've said already, I had the opportunity to interview every leader within the organisation. And I kind of said to them, if you had a wish list or a blank piece of paper, what would you like your performance management framework to look like? So it was really good to get their insight. And by doing that, it absolutely meant that we got their buy-in from the early days as well. We totally redesigned all of the material. So that was the form for completion, the way that it was rolled out, where it was stored, all of the accountability along it. And actually they've now got a one-stop shop to go to for everything to do with any individual within their team. We held focus groups to test the revised material and the process. And following that, we made any kind of amends or reiterations or improvements to it. But what was most key is at that point when we presented it to EXCO for review and sign off, it actually meant that we'd already got the buy-in of the business as well. Following that, we designed the training and we rolled it out to all of the leaders. So all of the leaders within the organisation, and I can truly say that includes all of the EXCO members as well, attended a 3-hour face-to-face session run by myself. And that took them all the way back to basics around why performance management was important, what the benefits are to them, what the benefits are to the organisation, the introduction of the new form. We even went right back to basics on what is a SMART objective, and the reason that they are so critical at the moment. We also rolled it out into the company-wide objectives, just have been launched as well. So the timing of it was fantastic. But we didn't leave it there. We made sure it was a completely inclusive process. So we also designed training and rolled out to all of the employees as well, albeit they've had a slightly shorter version. They've got a bite-sized online 1-hour version. But again, it covered the importance of performance management, the process that we'd got to go through, the introduction of the new form, and most importantly, the fact that they need to take ownership, and it was their what their role and responsibility is with it as well. And I think, as you can see, there's been a lot of time invested in it. And I think the most important thing that I would end up now is please make sure that you've got the governance to make sure that it's adhered to. It's all very well, bringing out something new and shiny, but actually if it falls off kind of within the first couple of months, then actually the time that you've invested in it doesn't go anywhere. So we've actually put a governance structure in place as well to make sure that it's adhered to and it's continuous as well. Sam.
Perfect, thank you, Anna. So final slice of that quote that we've been going back to from the client, and as you can see, as we've sort of talked to already, that it's definitely the whole process, labour intensive, yes, but very important, yes, and incredibly useful. And you can see here in Gary's own words how much of an impact that's had on the business. And as Anna just began to allude to, of course, the important thing is that you don't deliver a project like this and then put it away in a box and never look at it again. It's really important to make sure that that kind of continuous talent plotting and development of your leadership team and management of performance continues throughout consistently. So Anna's going to wrap up the webinar now, the content, with a couple more final slides in terms of what we'd recommend that you continue to focus on to make sure you're retaining that all-important top talent, as well as a final recap on the takeaway points. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you. So just as Sam said, I will just finish off now with a couple of slides just around kind of to start off with engaging and maintaining the top talent. So I think the governance of the performance management process, including the replotting of the 9-box grid, is absolutely key. What we have said, just for example, within Amigo, is that they'll have monthly one-to-ones as a touch point, and then every quarter is where they do their self-assessment around their behaviours, their self-assessment around their kind of values, and also that's where we move them around on the 9-box grid, hopefully all up in a trajectory motion and no one down in that bottom corner. That's what we want to do. Commitment to the training and the development from the top down is absolutely key. As Gary said in his last quote, we've done the full training needs analysis. He's absolutely into investing in the individuals that he's got, especially with retaining the top talent that he's got now as well. I think it's really key to keep asking everybody how they're feeling. And I think regular check-ins with management team to discuss things that are going well or need changing within the teams is absolutely key, as well as any training that's carried out. Make sure you're doing the evaluation afterwards. If you are conducting employee opinion surveys, temperature checks, or even pulse surveys, just make sure you do something with the results that you're getting. The ad hoc line of "you said, we did" goes a long way, because it absolutely proves that you've been listening to them, and absolutely really ties in with my last point, which is kind of a review of the wider EVP and the benchmarking in the marketplace, especially as we've said, as it is such a high level recruitment market at the moment, then we know that there's a lot of candidate kind of poaching going on and all sorts. So actually really having that continuous engagement and investing time in the talent that you've got is critical right now. And finally, I just want to end with some top tips. I've got just 8 top tips that I want to share with you. I think the first one is very key. It must be a company-wide approach if you're going to invest the time to do this. If you are going to do it, invest the time in it properly. I have to say, just as Sam said, whilst it was absolutely quite labour intensive, the results, the data, the information and the buy-in that we've managed to get is fantastic. And that is absolutely because we have the sponsorship from the senior leadership right at the outset. Once you've got your data, make sure you utilise it. We've been able to do that really well within Amigo. We've been able to break it down into the departments, even all the way right down into kind of the individuals, where they sit now and where we would aim for them to be, just by introducing some of this stuff. Prioritise the areas that need most attention and make sure you're giving them the support that they need to do. And remember, you are going to have continuing change in employees. So make sure you've got that consistency of the guidance for everybody, especially if they're new into the organisation. You've invested all of the time, so like we said, make sure that you maintain it, ensure new starters are built in, and your performance management process capture and maintain all of the assessments and any of the succession plans that we have incorporated as well. So if I think I've got nothing else, they are my 7 top tips that you need to take away with you today. And finally, what we're going to do now is open up to any questions.
Thank you, Anna. Well done. So I haven't seen any on the Q&A function yet, but now is the time if you want to ask any while we're in the forum. Alternatively, Anna, if you flick on to the next slide, please, darling, it will show up the email address and contact details again. So if you do think of anything post-webinar when you're watching it again, or later when you're starting to really think about applying this in your own business, do feel free to reach out, and I'm sure that Anna would be more than delighted to give you some words of advice.
Fantastic. Can't see any more questions coming in, Sam, so I'm just going to move you on to what we've got coming up in the future.
Perfect, thank you. So this is actually our last webinar of the season. We are going to take a break for August because we know most of the world will be on their hollybobs, but we will be returning in September with our second webinar on equality, diversity, inclusion, building on from our previous webinar that we ran on it last year. And we're very excited about this one. It's going to be quite a hefty one, and really trying to look at how we can support you and educate everyone within our network on how to really adopt meaningful practices when it comes to equality, diversity, inclusion. So that's on the 27th of September, and we will be publishing all the details of how you can join that next week. So please keep an eye out. We'll then be coming back to contractors in October, following all the focus that there's been in the news and the press for the last couple of years around IR35 and compliance. We actually want to deliver the next session around just making sure that you're ticking that all those boxes in terms of ensuring, you know, your business is engaging with contractors compliantly, and all of the various regulations that sit around that, not just IR35. And then in November, we'll be focusing on making sure that you're still able to enhance that candidate experience. I imagine in November, it's still going to be a tough market to recruit and retain in. So obviously it's a really important area to make sure that you're focusing on during that recruitment process. So that's what we've got coming up for the rest of the year. Just a quick reminder that all of the previous webinars that we've delivered, including this one, will be available on our website on thecurvegroup.co.uk/insights to watch at any time. And if you do have any other topics or areas that you'd be very interested in us sharing more insights and knowledge and information on, then do please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll make sure that we can build that into our future programme for 2023. But that's it. I think that takes us to the wrap-up slide. So thank you to everybody, including those of you that are still with us now. You've made it through. We will give you 2 minutes back in your life, but I hope that's been really useful. And please keep an eye out for a copy of that recording that will be coming to you within the next 24 hours. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you all.